Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, today we're looking at Mothman once again, folks. I have a couple of stories of winged humanoid cryptids that are very interesting, folks. One takes place near Joplin, Missouri, back in 1999, which I have a few intriguing ideas which we'll talk about when we get to the article. Either way, we'll start off with this one. Winged Jeepers Creepers-like creature seen flying over Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Let's get into the story now. It reminded me of the movie Jeepers Creepers. My mouth just kind of opened and I was speechless, praying as it went behind the cloud near the moon. And of course, the peoples up on phantomsandmonsters.com received this story of a flying humanoid from New Jersey. Very interesting, folks. It tells you that this is an interesting account that this creature looks like something from a well-known horror movie. And we'll talk about that as we get into this article, folks. Could be that maybe that the reason why it looks like the Jeepers Creepers monster was because it was some sort of tulpa created through people's belief. We'll talk about that as we read this article, folks. So let's hear and read through the full account. Hi, I came across your site looking for answers to what my daughter and I saw in the sky, and there are similar stories to ours. I am from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and approximately 2 years ago, my daughter and I were riding our bikes. It was bright that night due to a full moon, not many clouds in the sky, but a few that would once in a while make the night darker. We stopped by a friend's house. She and her 2 daughters came out, and we were all just talking. I happened to look up in the sky, and there was this flying long human-shaped thing with a wingspan approximately 7 to 8 feet wide. It reminded me of the movie Jeepers Creepers. My mouth just kind of opened and I was speechless and praying as it went behind the cloud near the moon. I told them what I had just witnessed. Everyone kind of giggled, and I told them it did not come out of the cloud yet to keep looking. Well, to our eyes it appeared again. My daughter just stood there watching it, repeating herself, "Mom, what is that?" I know she had the same hard-to-swallow feeling I did. While my friend's 2 girls ran inside screaming, we watched as it flapped and soared near the moon till it disappeared into the clouds again and never came out. As I said, folks, maybe this entity was some sort of tulpa. Yesterday, I talked in a live stream about how maybe people pick up on telepathic signals from others. Maybe this was something similar to both the tulpa phenomena and maybe some sort of telepathic communication. Maybe someone was thinking about the Jeepers Creepers monster and it literally appeared in front of these people. Or literally, maybe it was a thought form, a tulpa, that literally gained real physical substance. We don't know, folks. All we can say is that this guy saw something, and along with his daughter and her friends, it was, to them, very real. But let's finish off the article now, and then we can discuss it a little more. I know what I had seen that night, but I wouldn't know what to call it except a flying human-like creature, an experience I would never take back, and when I hear others, I really want to believe they had seen the same thing I had. My daughter, to this day, now 14, feels there is so much out there we really don't know much about. What is myth and what is real? A night we will never forget in keeping herself busy researching the Jersey Devil to Mothman and Slender Man. It's out there, S. Is it, folks? Maybe it is. Maybe this was some sort of alien being. Maybe it was some sort of tulpa. Maybe it was actually some sort of unknown cryptid. Maybe even a thunderbird, folks, and they mistook it for a flying cryptid. Or maybe it was some sort of shapeshifter as well. We just simply don't know, folks. There's also a note with this article, so let's read that now, too, before we move on to the next article. Because of the distance, the wingspan could have easily surpassed 7 to 8 feet. Very interesting. Multiple witness sighting. The description of the being was similar to the Night Stalker from the Night Stalker Terrible Being Torments family. The witness in that incident also referred to the character in Jeepers Creepers as well. So another interesting story, folks. Was it some sort of tulpa? Maybe it was a shapeshifter. Maybe a lizard man, perhaps, or even a skinwalker. Because if you think about the skinwalker phenomena, folks, some people basically conflate it with the phenomena of the night deer. That maybe skinwalkers or maybe other magical beings take the forms of these night deer and frighten people. It could also explain what people are seeing in Chicago with the Mothman phenomena in this incident as well. Maybe it's a shapeshifter taking these forms to frighten and basically just amuse themselves by doing this. It's just an idea, but it could be true. Either way, folks, we'll talk about this a little more after we read this next article. Hideous gargoyle encountered on I-49 near Joplin, Missouri. It's another encounter with basically a winged humanoid, folks, but this time, people, or basically the witnesses here, said that it looked like a gargoyle. literally like it was a stone gargoyle that came to life. That's at least what I'm going to say here, folks. They just mention it looking like a gargoyle. But to me, folks, that can basically cover several different cryptids that I can think of. But let's basically dig into this account and hear the witness's full story now. I was contacted by Edward in Kansas City, Kansas by telephone after he read a post that referenced my book, Mothman Dynasty, Chicago's Winged Humanoids. Edward wanted to share an encounter he and his cousin had in the summer of 1999 between 10 and 11 p.m. local time. They were traveling southbound on I-49 toward Joplin, Missouri, with Edward driving. He could not recall the exact area, but they were not too far from Joplin. And if you remember, back in 2011, folks, the Joplin tornado, the F5 that hit Joplin, Missouri, in that encounter that basically devastated the town, many people saw the butterfly people. This is what some children and adults apparently say that they saw. They saw small fairy-like beings, or, well, full-grown and maybe even gigantic angel-like beings. Now, the fact that this winged humanoid story we're about to basically fully read through has yet another winged humanoid being that was sighted near Joplin, Missouri is, well, it's very telling. Maybe there's something going on in Joplin, Missouri or the surrounding area where it's prone to basically see such entities. Maybe there's some sort of alien base, perhaps, maybe under the ground, or maybe this being that they saw was a demon, and these, well, angelic beings that the people saw during the 2011 tornado were angels. But then again, how do you explain the fairies? As I said, folks, there are many ideas to look at this, and we'll try to cover them as we read through this article. So let's go, well, forth and do so. He states that he noticed a tall figure quickly running from the direction of a medium to his left, then directly in front of his car. Both he and his cousin observed this human-like being and immediately said to each other that it looked like a gargoyle. The headlights illuminated the humanoid so well that both witnesses could get a good description of it. The gargoyle was at least 6.5 feet tall and had dark, leathery, hairless skin covering its body. The being looked toward the witnesses, and its face featured starkly flattened characteristics with large, deep-set eyes. There were large wings that lay flat on its back, but were extended as it reached the right side of the highway. Edward believes the being began to ascend into the air above the field. So much like with the Joplin tornado incident, folks, the witnesses saw this being, or basically they believe they saw it begin to fly. In the case with the butterfly people, these angels were indeed basically seen flying, as well with the little fairy-like creatures that some of the people and witnesses saw. They saw them buzzing around, almost like they were literally like these little fairy lights, or literally like the classic depiction of a fairy, like Tinkerbell. So, literally, this is what they saw. Now, with the fairy lights, I think at least some of them said that they looked like they were glowing and they were humanoid-shaped, but still wore clothing at least. Either way, both accounts, or should I say, are very strange. Why is this happening? Let's finish off this article and talk about the first account and this account a little bit more. Edward noted that he had no other comparisons to make regarding the humanoid other than calling it a gargoyle. However, after watching the movie Jeepers Creepers following the film's release in 2001, he stated that the humanoid was very similar to the creeper character. Both witnesses remained quiet about the encounter until a few years later, when Edward married his wife. He and his cousin recounted the incident to her. The witness seemed grateful that he could tell his story without someone thinking he was crazy. I can understand that, folks. These incidents are both very strange. Was this entity very much similar to basically, well, the creeper from that movie, folks? Remember, this happened in 1999, 2 years before the Jeepers Creepers movie was going to be released. So, maybe what they saw was some sort of telepathic communication or a tulpa. Remember, in 1999, the Jeepers Creepers movie was probably being developed. So maybe the writer or maybe the director were visualizing this entity, and somehow it literally, like a tulpa, that came to life. But that's at least my idea. And how does it relate to the first story? Maybe that was a tulpa too. Either way, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit the part of the bell that will give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.